when you're really small, um, these high risks actually make you stronger.
Do you want to impact the world and still turn a profit? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Growth Everywhere. This is the show where you'll find real conversations with real entrepreneurs. They'll share everything from their biggest struggle to the exact strategies they use on a daily basis. So if you're ready for a value-packed interview, listen on. Here's your host, Eric Sue.
How many of you have experienced making a bad hire or had bad hires on your team? I personally lost over $840,000 on just one bad hire alone. So that's why I'm doing a free class called the 5 Secrets to Avoiding Bad Hires that can cost you $50,000 plus each. All you need to do is to text bad hire, spell it out, BADHIRE to 33444. That's 33444 and you'll be registered. I'll see you there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Growth Everywhere, where we interview entrepreneurs and bring you business and personal growth tips. Today, we have Manuel Medina, who's the CEO of Outreach.io. And Outreach is a tool that helps automate sales tasks and frees you to sell more. And I'm a happy user of Outreach, and I would highly recommend it to people that are in sales. Manny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear a little more about your background and how it got you to where you are in terms of outreach, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we had a previous startup in that was in the recruiting space, and one of the things that we noticed was that in recruiting, it's very important to follow up, but to follow up and sound human every time you talk to a person. In recruiting is the business of matchmaking between two entities, an employer and a potential candidate. And you have to sound human, but you also have to be very, very diligent about being out there in the communication and following up. So we built a tool that allows recruiters to sort of scale that communication aspect and retain the human touch. So as we were sort of building that out, we realized that this tool is actually more efficient in the sales realm, meaning you can now, as a salesperson, you can go out and touch as many leads as you can while sounding natural, while sounding genuine, and continue to follow up with those leads until they convert. And that was the impetus behind outreach. As we sort of step back and look at the whole sequence of touches that you have to do for getting a lead or an inbound lead or an outbound lead all the way to conversion, you realize that it's all communication, and automating those as many pieces of that communication sequences are what's going to differentiate the good teams from the bad ones.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And, for us, I mean, we have follow-up has always been a pain, right? Even though we use tools like Boomerang and things like that to bring the emails back, you still forget to follow up. So, I mean, with Outreach, just from personal experience, I've been able to get our SDR responses to, 15%, which is pretty decent. And in some cases, I mean, when we do like these interview requests, 35%, and in some cases, even 96% too. So this is all a testament to Outreach, and it's all about the follow-up. Appreciate what you guys are doing. Do you want to talk a little bit about the team at Outreach? I think you guys have a unique perspective on that, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Thanks for asking that, because we are at a core, we are a product team, and one of the things that we spend a lot of time going through are sort of the details of the day-to-day operation of our customers. And our customers, what we have found out is that every single sales team is unique in the way they do things. Some of them, are very bent on using email and automation and hitting a lot of leads. Some others are very bent on being very manual and tactical and sort of using automation only when it makes sense. So we endeavored to build a tool that sort of addresses both. And the only way you can do that is if you have a team that is absolutely dedicated to sort of product and user experience and make that the best. So the team is actually comprised mostly of engineers. So it was only later in our life cycle that we brought on salespeople, and that we brought on and that we sort of started growing the customer success piece. But at the end of the day, our team is mostly around sort of building a beautiful product and then being as responsive as we can to our customer needs. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we actually have 3 releases per week. And most of the issues we resolve within hours. And it's mostly, because our team is just, super focused on making the tool, the best tool out there.
Now, what does that mean exactly to have, what are the implications of doing 3 releases per week, just from someone that doesn't have a product focused background?
Yeah. So what that means is that you are setting up in the development world, just like in the sales world, you have sort of a cadence of development. And what you try to do is you sort of try to bite big projects, but you also try to have intermediate releases for those big projects and interim releases of the large sort of undertakings. So having having 3 releases a week, that means that the site literally gets updated 3 times a week. You may not see it, and what you will see is a little icon popping in the top saying, "Please refresh this page." And what that means is that a new release of the software was put in, and it could be a bug fix, or it could be a feature. It could be like a little thing. Like a lot of people request little nits in the template language or in the way you track something else, or some icon is looking a little weird. And the ability to please those little requests go a long way. You know what I mean? Like if you come in and be like, I wish that this thing was on the left and not on the right for these 5 reasons. We look at it and if it makes sense, we'll do it right away. You see what I mean? And that will leave you highly satisfied because now you feel like you have a hand at the product, and the customers feel like they're very, very deeply bought in and part of sort of the team, if that makes sense.
Got it. No, I have to hand it to you. I mean, when I reached out to you guys were super responsive, and the situation was even elevated all the way to you, and you responded personally. So I think that personal touch definitely helps in terms of getting more advocates. So appreciate that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In terms of number of users today, I mean, where are you guys at today?
So we have over 180 orgs, meaning accounts, in our system. We grow that number about 20% every week. Wow. And it's a combination of about 80% outbound and 20% inbound. Funnily enough, we actually don't have a big marketing, and that's why we flew under the radar for so long. We are mostly an outbound engine, but we get a lot of referrals from our own customers, telling their friends that I'm using outreach, etc.
It's funny. I just shot 2 people your way, and they've been sending me emails raving about the product. So that's just a testament to how good. I mean, till this year, I haven't heard of outreach till just recently. So yeah, I think a lot of big things. 20% growth week over week is insane to me. So I mean, what did you do exactly when you first started out to acquire, let's just say, your first 10 customers?
I did a number of things. So my first step. I geek out a little bit on sort of prospecting tools. It's a thing that I sort of I spend a lot of time thinking about. So my first move was to, after we got we went out and we sort of did a lot of LinkedIn prospecting. We used Twofer and all this to sort of start guessing emails, etc. But then I met Jason from Data Nice, and when I got Data Nice allowed me to do rougher cuts based on technology. So for instance, one of the things that stand up the most about outreach is our ability to have bidirectional sync with Salesforce. What that means is that you can update, outreach can update any field within the lead or the account, et cetera, in Salesforce when something changes. So if you reply, I can go ahead and update the lead status and say, Eric has replied, moving forward to the opportunity stage. So because of that, it allowed me to go in and sort of sort out all the Pardot users, because that if you have Pardot, you have Salesforce, and if you have Salesforce, you're probably a good customer for me. So I started using Data Nice extensively, and that allowed me to sort of be very targeted on the sales stack that a particular customer was using, and sort of make a pitch that accommodated that stack. So that was sort of my first big sort of prospecting tool was actually Data Nice. After that, there's a lot of people in the Bay Area that do prospecting for a living, and the ability to sort of either buy list or exchange list or just hustle it out allowed me to sort of get a hold of a bunch of really high quality names and companies, et cetera, that sort of made the bulk of our outbound efforts. And going forward, we're trying to look for partnerships with people who do lead generation for a living. Because our products are relatively complementary. You're not in the lead gen space, but we provide tools for you to sort of grow your lead gen. So that's sort of how we're thinking going forward. We're going to grow our revenue.
Yeah, that's so smart. And I think this tool doesn't just apply for sales. I mean, it applies to, people that are maybe even, agencies out there that are looking to promote their content, whatever it is that requires follow up. I mean, this is it. So I think you've come up with a great name around it. But, I don't think we've really outlined, we've kind of skidded around it, but, what is the ultimate benefit of outreach just so the audience is crystal clear on what it does?
Yeah, so the outreach allows you to sort of put your cadence, they define what your cadence of touches is going to be, and put it in Rails and sort of put it in a track, and then see the performance of the cadence as a cadence, not as a series of templates. So when you want to sort of optimize and automate the number of touches that you're going to be doing with a particular set of prospects, outreach is by far the tool that gives you the most efficiency, and it gives you the most insights. And mostly because the online A/B testing allows you to quickly determine how a template or a piece of language performs within the sequence. The second thing is that it allows you to see the differentiation between manual and automated emails, right? So if I'm able to, or a manual and automated touches, for instance. So in outreach, you can create a cadence of touches that includes both automated follow-ups and manual follow-ups, such as, go and connect with this person in LinkedIn, go send this person a tweet, go and craft an email that insert some pieces that are relatively new and relevant to the particular user set that you're talking to. So that has to be scientifically driven, meaning the effort that you put into creating a manual step has to prove with some kind of reply rate, ROI, if it makes sense. So outreach is the only tool that allows you both the entire full suite of automation and the ability to sort of measure the manual steps as part of your cadence.
Yep.
I know it's kind of long-winded, but I get excited when I talk about it.
No, totally makes sense. And I think for marketers, this is especially exciting because marketers are so used to using, email autoresponder. So this is exactly like an email autoresponder, but just for outbound purposes where you can A/B test, everything's crystal clear. And, you just have that automation. You're putting people through the funnel over and over until they respond. So, again, for me, I mean, I've tried the other tools out there. There's nothing out there like this. I mean, it is a crowded space. So I think that is the differentiator, right? The fact that you guys have, these features.
And it's an interesting thing. It's getting more crowded by the day. There is when I was at SaaStr, after I met you, a guy came up to me and said, "Are you from Outreach?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Hi, I'm about to compete with you."
Oh,
I'm like, "Well, welcome to the space."
What company was that?
Celigy.
Got it. Cool. So, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know there's more players in this space. Okay. Well, cool. I mean, my testimonial is, you guys are clearly ahead, and I've tried the other one. So, good job there. So, I wanted to ask you a question. I mean, you have an MBA from Harvard, and a lot of people, the Mark Cubans of the world, the Valley, they're like, yeah, you don't need an MBA, blah blah blah. So, how has that MBA, especially from Harvard, helped out?
It has helped out in more ways than sort of what meets the eye. So, I mean, the reason why you go to a very good business school is not so much because of the knowledge per se. I mean, you will have access to top quality faculty, and you will have a lot of exposure to other things that you may be interested in. But at the end of the day, you go there because it's a self-selecting pool of really interesting people. My class had not only bankers and consultants, just like any other class does, but he had a mayor of an Indian city.
Wow.
That's what I say, city in India. He had a politician from Egypt. It just had a number of very, very fascinating people that sort of give you a broader perspective in the world. The second thing is that Harvard in particular sort of like takes a particular approach to the way that they teach, meaning that they put a lot of emphasis in leadership. And I know leadership sounds like a big, kind of like wishy-washy kind of word, but they do put a lot of work into like, how do you lead teams, kind of like, what incentives look like, and a lot of things that are, sometimes overseen as part of the core curriculum in an MBA program. So I think that the most important takeaway from going to HBS was sort of the connections and the experience of being there among very, very smart people. It gives you sort of a degree of humility that is hard to grasp, outside of that environment, if it makes sense.
Got it. Cool. So it really is, I think it's the quality of the people on the network that really opens things up for you, right?
That's precisely right. That is precisely right.
Okay. It kind of reminds me of the SaaStr conference, where I've actually never been to a conference where the quality of attendees was so high. So something
It
similar
was
to that.
ridiculously high. Like I felt like I was among brethren. And like I wish that the conference was 3 days, just so that I can get to talk to every single person in that room. It was unbelievable. Like I'm props to Max Alschuler and Jason for putting it together. It was awesome.
Yeah, just so the audience knows, you guys should all go next year. I think it's going to be in either in March or February, whatever it is exactly. But yeah, that's not to be missed.
I was actually writing a little post that it's been delayed, but I was writing a little post how I actually met my competition in Flesh and Bone there. So I met Daniel Barber from Tout, and we chatted and exchanged views on the market. I met Puyan from Persist. And met Kyle from SalesLoft, and and these are real people with real problems, and we're all in the same boat. And I mean, like we're all trying to make the category a category. I mean, sales automation is still kind of nascent in its very infant. So, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to sort of help the same customer type. We're all here to help the salesperson be better. Each of us has a different approach to it. Kyle is a very smooth and very successful salesperson, and he's very respected in the sales community. And Tout has just been around for a while, so to see what each brings to the table was very, very interesting and telling. And sort of will also sort of give you a forecast on how the tools will evolve going forward.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of blown away from it. I mean, you walked by and we just met. I mean, that's totally random. And we walked by, people are talking about churn. So yeah, I think it's good learnings for everyone. I mean, you're getting ideas even from the competition too. So that's amazing. How often does that happen, right?
Exactly.
Right. So, backtracking a little bit to kind of the beginning of outreach. I mean, can you tell us about one big struggle you faced while growing the business?
Oh yeah. So unequivocally, the biggest struggle was getting reply detection right. So, and that's a technical challenge, and I'm gonna sort of try to make it not as boring, but the reply detection is a bit of a challenge because there's two ways to do it. You can do it the way Yesware and sort of Tout do it, which is you have to rely on a pixel being open for you to detect the email coming back to you. The other way to do it is, and there's some shortcomings in the way you do that, because sometimes the pixel doesn't get open, and if it doesn't get open, then you don't detect the reply, etc. And the browsers, especially Gmail, is getting very, very aggressive around not displaying images. And that sort of prevents the pixel to sort of trigger. The other way to do it is to actually go to the server, meaning you authenticate into your server with outreach the same way you would use your phone to authenticate. And that's what it was really hard in general for us, because email uses a protocol called IMAP, and IMAP has been around forever. It's probably as old as the internet, the email protocol. And Gmail has taken it in one direction, and Microsoft Exchange with Outlook has taken it to a completely different direction, creating in what it is, it's actually two different protocols. And the problem with the IMAP protocol is that it's asynchronous, meaning IMAP email itself is a document with a header, a footer, and bodies, and a bunch of other header information that can come to you in any order. So it's not that you can, open up in raw form. You can open up an email, and the email will always display the same way that the way it displays in your email client. To a computer, it will look like a bunch of stuff that just came in randomly. So for you to interpret that email and recognize that email as a reply to a previous email, you have to be able to parse it relatively quickly without getting confused on what the header or footer information is. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's sort of the basic challenge of reply detection.
Kind of makes sense. I don't have a technical background, but I kind of get what you're saying. So at least if a non-technical guy kind of gets what you're getting at, then I think it's okay.
Awesome. So so it took us about 6 months to get that to work just right, and we had to code it 3 times. So the first time we tried to assume that all the emails are the same. That was wrong. The second time we assumed that the emails weren't the same, and that got us a little further ahead. But then the third piece was that email encoding, meaning the character in the emails itself that determines whether this is a reply or not, changes from one service to the other, and that took us a while to sort of get right. So now we are probably the only service out there with the probable exception of RelateIQ that has we probably miss 1 out of 5,000 replies in terms of
Wow.
like, reply detection. And that, it gets better every time we catch another one that gets through.
So what about the industry average? I mean, okay, you guys are 1 out of 5,000, right? What is the typical average for the other guys?
I don't know, to be frank. We like to estimate that the other guys are missing about 10 to 20% of their replies.
Huh.
And that's mostly because whenever we have an account that we're trying to land and they're using either yes or out, the main complaint is that they're not able to automate follow-ups because the follow-ups are liable to slip through the cracks. And follow-up automation is one of those things that you either do it or you don't. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as halfway automation. Because if you have to check emails to see if they reply or not, then you have to check every single email to check if they reply or not. You see what I mean?
Yep.
And that prevents you from scaling. And
And
that's
I
sort
hate
of
that.
yeah, exactly. Because you never know whether the reply was caught or not. And that's just like that gives you an uneasy feeling in your stomach that it's just not cool.
Got it. Okay, so now I definitely understand. I mean, it's you guys are ahead, or it seems that you guys have this automation down because it sounds like you guys have beaten the technical challenge. You guys are ahead of the curve there. So my question would be in terms of hiring a technical team. I mean, what are some secrets you can share around building such a strong team?
I think the first secret is that our co-founders are developers. So we have 4 co-founders, out of which 2 are developers, and the other one is Andrew, who is our product guy, and he understands development to a very deep level. And I'm a former developer, so I can sort of get what they're doing. So I think that's sort of the DNA of a company is made of the co-founders. You see what I mean? So you can see the companies are sort of an extension of what the co-founder is. So if you look at Salesloft, for instance, so Salesloft Cadence you can potentially say that it's sort of like an outgrowth of Kyle. You see what I mean? Like it involves everything that a salesperson is supposed to be doing, mostly because he has a process down in his head and he's just putting it out in software. You see what I mean?
Interesting.
Whereas for us, we bit the technical challenge first because that's the kind of people we are, and we got it down pat into a level in which you can now ram 10,000 leads and we'll miss 1 reply out of the entire set. You see what I mean? So that was kind of like the impetus for that drive that makes us different.
Okay. Now, do you think, okay, so I mean, you guys are technical, all technical to a point. So my question to you would be, for any type of co-founders, how technical should they get? Where should they stop learning and then, focus on the other areas?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So I would say that let me take a detour before I answer that question. So my second MBA was when I worked at Amazon. So I was one of the first few employees in a group called Amazon Web Services.
Nice.
And back then, when the cloud was not a thing, but it was a crazy idea that Bezos had that he was getting panned by the press. The press was telling him to stick to books and DVDs and toys and things like that. And this cloud services is crazy talk. So it was a very small group, and that reported directly to Bezos on a weekly basis. And we will go up and talk to him about challenges around scalability and Elasticsearch and race conditions in this particular part of the problem. And what I noticed is that if you think that Bezos is a great CEO, the way that he manages his team is he had a deep understanding of the details of a problem. So he never glossed over of what is working, what isn't working. He had, whenever there was a problem that was significant enough for the company, he would have the engineering team working on that problem to report directly to him until the problem was solved. And he wanted to know the specific details as to the way that they were architecting the software to solve that particular problem. So to answer your question, I think that I think part of leadership is to be both detail-oriented without being micromanager, but you have to understand the details. You have to understand what makes your customers tick. You have to understand, what makes your software tick, and you have to understand what makes your team tick. And then you have to understand the strategy overall. You see what I mean? So it's not easy, but you have to do it.
Got it. Now, my understanding is Bezos did not have an engineering background. Is that wrong?
That is absolutely right. He did not have an engineering background.
Huh. Okay.
But he was a trader. And one of the interesting things about Bezos is that his decisions look very much like a buy or sell decision. So for him, a no decision on an open item was a sell decision. You see what I mean? You're never buying or you're never not doing anything. You're always buying or selling. You either pro or con. So not executing on something, that means that whatever that something is happening is right and you're betting on it. You see what I mean?
Got it.
So it's a really different mindset when in terms of like leadership. But you have to be able to, especially in tech and especially in high growth companies, you have to be able to understand both the details of your software and the details of your customers.
Okay, makes sense. That's helpful. Okay, so was there one of the questions I had? Was there a point in time where the company was on the brink of failure?
Not on the. We're all on the brink of failure at some point, right? Especially when we're small. I'm a huge fan of Nassim Taleb, and I don't know if you read his book Anti-Fragile or his previous ones, the Black Swan.
I have not.
But one of the points that he makes is that when you're really small, sort of these high risks actually make you stronger. So you're never in the brink of failure, if you will. You see what I mean? Like we had to raise from angels last year, and that took a while, and it felt a little weird sometimes, and it felt a little scary sometimes because we never know whether we're gonna get funding, and we're still working on reply detection, and the product is not out because we're still working on reply detection, and I have to go out and talk to more angels to get a bit more money. But then it gets then you learn how to do it well, and then it doesn't become a problem anymore, and then it becomes the thing that you do. You know what I mean? So when you're small and you're scrappy and you sort of have an eye on the goal, you're never in the brink of failure per se. If you're not solving a customer problem, that's a different story, right? But if you are convinced that you're solving a big problem and you're bent to solve it, you'll find a way around quote unquote failure, and you'll move forward.
Okay.
I don't know if that sort of made sense.
So you talked about taking a little more, talk about taking big risks when you're small and things like that. I mean, can you give us an example?
Yeah. So when and again, it goes back to the reply detection. So we went out and we coded the platform, and reply detection was kind of working, and we signed up a few test customers, and it worked kind of sometimes, and sometimes it didn't work. And then Gordon, our co-founder, came in and it was like, look, guys, we're not going to be able to fix it unless we step back and recode the whole thing from scratch, and that's going to take 2 months.
Wow.
And we barely had 2 months of runway at that point. And we're like, all right, let's do it. So we pulled the product from beta testers, and we're like, sorry guys, we need to make a major improvement here. So we'll get back to you in 2 months. That was pretty scary, but if you have a solid team that sort of that trusts each other, and you believe that what Gordon said he was going to do was going to work out just right, you sort of go with it. And then as a CEO, your job is to make sure that the team is funded and fed and happy and looking in the same direction.
Okay, so I'm struggling to understand this, right? So you had to shut the product down for 2 months, and you had 2 months of runway left. So you have 2 months to rebuild it, and then at the 2 months mark, I mean, did you just magically like turn the switch on, and then like cash flow started flowing again? Like what happened exactly?
No. So you continue. I mean, the moment you make that decision, you continue to fundraise. So we were sort of rolling fundraising, talking to angels, fundraising a little bit, talking to angels, fundraising a little bit, just keeping a few months ahead of payroll. You know what I mean? It's very relatively straightforward to get angel money here in Silicon Valley. So you do it, and you keep the company sort of funded. But you tell everybody that you have a particular goal in mind, right? So you fundraise and you say, look, you guys, product is ready, commercially available. We're going to start getting customers and going to show you a distraction. All of a sudden you have to go back and be like, no, product was not ready and it's not commercially available. And by the way, can you write us another check?
So did you tell the team, I mean, were you like, hey guys, like we need to redo the product, but there's only 2 months of cash in the bank, or did you keep the 2 months of cash in the bank to yourselves as co-founders?
No, you sort of keep, no, I'm a big fan of disclosure. So we all knew where we stand in our cash position, but on the other hand, like it's a fairly, good time to be fundraising. So we were never sort of afraid that we're going to be running out of cash. Worst comes to worst, we just take a bit of a salary cut and carry on. So it wasn't, again, when you're small and you're nimble, you can take, this kind of risks don't impact you as much. If we had 100 people company and we had 2 months of runway and we don't have product market fit, you're screwed. You see what I mean?
Yep.
But if you have, 5 people in the company and you have product market fit, but you don't know, but your product is not quite there yet. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of having, a bunch of perfectionists in the room, is that, it's not going to be there and our customers are not going to be super excited about, you know what I mean? And that's a word that we use a lot. We don't want happy customers. We want excited customers. So if reply detection is not quite working the way we think, and we think that there's a better way to do it, we're going to go ahead and bite that bullet. And that was sort of a big decision, right? So, let's go back, let's retool. It's not even a customer-facing feature. You know what I mean? Like reply detection it's not something you come and see and be like, wow, look how pretty your reply detection is. No, it's something that sort of lives with you. So we took that risk, and I just, at that point, we're like, all right, guys, I'll be back in 2 months with, cash. You know what I mean? So let's continue doing what we're doing, and it's gonna be all right.
Cool. Yeah. There's not one moment where I feel like you would be scared in a situation like that. And I think, in some situations, a lot of co-founders would be freaking out. So I think that's one thing I've kind of noticed just from your demeanor.
Yeah. Well, I sound a lot more secure.
Cool. All right. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to your 25-year-old self?
That's a really good question. Surround yourself with good people will be my one good piece of advice. Start looking for potential co-founders early in your career. When I was 25 years old, where was I when I was 25 years old? I was fresh from earning a master's in computer science, and sort of decided to take a turn and go do banking for a while, and sort of chase the money and the glamour of New York City and the banking life. I would have told myself, don't fall for that. You're not one of them. You're a technologist. You thrive in building product and being surrounded by very passionate people. Go for that. So finding yourself instead of chasing the glitter and the glamour is very important when you're in that age.
I like that. That's something I really noticed. I mean, especially growing up in an Asian community, it's all about making money and becoming a doctor or doing finance or being a lawyer. So I can totally see where that is.
Yeah. I was always concerned with doing something my parents would be proud about. And, when I started my company, my parents didn't even know what I did. So, yeah.
I know how that feels. Cool, man. So what's one productivity hack you can share with the audience?
Let me think. I think following up on the spot is a productivity hack. So instead of setting yourself calendar reminders, figure out a way to set figure out a way for you to do the follow up when it's hot and it's in your hand. I've never seen calendar reminders work well when you're trying to do a follow up. So either book a time in the day to follow up on your emails, or get yourself a tool like Outreach or Self-Logged or Tout or any of those to follow up on your emails. The conversion on a follow-up email is like 3 times as high as one email, even when it's an inbound or an intro or somebody you actually know. And that's just because people are busy and your inbox starts looking more like Twitter than a proper inbox.
Right, and you guys have some numbers around that, right? I think your Andrew from your team said it takes at least 6 follow-ups.
Yeah. So it takes, and we have seen that between 5 to 6 follow-ups to get the proper reply rate. So anecdotally, I get a lot of intros, right? Because people know me and they were like, oh, you should try it out. I know the founder, to go talk to him. So I get a lot of interest like that. And the moment I get an intro from somebody, from a warm handover from somebody that I know, it still takes about 4 touches to get about 75 reply rates. 4 touches, and these are people who are introducing me warm to somebody they know. And it still takes a while. So, you can only extrapolate on how worse it starts getting for people that less and people who are going cold.
Wow. So you put them right into a funnel when that happens, right? Because it's happening so much now, right?
Exactly. Everybody goes into a sequence, because otherwise, we're all liable to forget.
Got it. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. What's one must-read book you'd recommend to everyone?
Oh my gosh. That's a great question. Mike Weinberg. I forget the book that he wrote, but I do remember his name.
Okay.
Let me look him up real quick. The thing is, it was a sales book, that sort of changed my like my life and how I think about sales. And one of the things that he mentioned in the book, and I'm pretty sure it's Mike Wenger, I'm gonna have to look it up, is that when you are pitching somebody, like if you really believe in your product and you really believe that you're solving a problem, whenever you talk to a customer on the phone, be it cold or be in from an appointment that you're setting, the mindset that you need to be is be a doctor. You're coming in to diagnose and to see if you can help and how you can help and sort of prescribe the right medicine. And that changes. I don't think I'm a natural salesperson, but I do think that I'm I'm naturally good at helping people. And that alone has carried the day in terms of helping me, get my mind around sales and being a good salesperson.
Okay. Is that book called New Sales Simplified?
Exactly. Yep, that one.
Okay, got it. That's a 5-star. 5-star average. It's not even 4.5 stars. So 199 customer reviews, 5 stars. We'll put that in the show notes. But great recommendation. I just bought it with one click right now.
It is old school, and it was written God knows how long ago, but it is as true as it comes. It was refreshing.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it. I love this. It looks interesting. It says 2012, so I'm assuming that they're just refreshing it every now and then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I think the book itself was written longer than that.
Got it. Okay. So Manny, what's the best way for people to find you online?
Find me on either LinkedIn or Twitter is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm not I'm not a sort of like a social media junkie, but I'm pretty responsive. Or Manny at Outreach.
Outreach.io, right?
Yep, Outreach.io.
All right, perfect. Manny, thanks so much for joining us. I think there's a lot of insight, and I think a lot of people are going to be testing sales automation in the coming years. So definitely, everyone, there's a free trial for Outreach. Make sure you check it out, especially if you're a marketer or a salesperson. You have to check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Eric.
All right, thanks, Manny.
Bye.
How many of you have experienced making a bad hire or had bad hires on your team? I personally lost over $840,000 on just one bad hire alone. So that's why I'm doing a free class called the 5 Secrets to Avoiding Bad Hires that can cost you $50,000 plus each. All you need to do is to text bad hire, spell it out, BADHIRE, to 33444. That's 33444, and you'll be registered. I'll see you there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growth Everywhere. If you loved what you heard, be sure to head back to growtheverywhere.com for today's show notes and a ton of additional resources. But before you go, hit the subscribe button to avoid missing out on next week's value-packed interview. Enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to take action and continue growing.